right, let's do it. The Ty Butler Show. We live on YouTube. We're also live on Twitter. Check us out at Ty D Butler. Streaming. Want to get these numbers up. Like, share, and subscribe. We don't even got to delay it. Claire Lune, she's on with us for her weekly segment. And
I feel like
what happened
I'm sorry
here?
to
What
interrupt.
happened?
Hello?
There we go. Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like your mic, I don't know if it's my headphones or your mic, but it's like cutting out in and out. It might be my headphones.
Check. You got me? You hear
I think
me?
so.
Okay, we're good?
I think so.
We're good?
I think
All
so. I
right,
hope
let's
so.
do it. I think it's the Buss family. I think they're
Yeah, probably.
cutting our technology. So a lot to get to today. At Ty D Butler. We are streaming. We are live on Twitter. She is at Claire MPLS. And this is the first time we have done a show since the Lakers drama dropped on us. What was that? Monday? But Monday was a crazy day because we thought the lead story was the Clippers, and then it became the Lakers. And so let's just start with what happened in LA. It was reported that the Buss family was going to sell their remaining 17.8%, and they were going to be done. Jeannie's like, nah, I'm not with that. I'm fighting tooth and nail. I'm supposed to be here until 2030. And so let's start with your reaction to everything that went down on Monday and what we have learned since then.
I'm so fascinated by this story. Like, there's just such a rich text, and there's so much. I mean, like, even if you didn't care about basketball, like if you're just interested in sort of like the Machiavellian dealings of billionaires, like I just think it's fascinating. I've brushed up on it quite a bit in the last couple of days. I'm still very much like not an expert on it. It's above my pay grade by like orders of magnitude, but the gist of the story, as far as I can understand it, is that Mark Walter is in insurance essentially and leveraged insurance money to how he has built his great amount of wealth is that he's leveraged insurance money to make riskier investments. And typically like insurance money, like I don't know if people know this about the people where they have like life insurance or health insurance or whatever, but the money that you give them every month, they invest that in stuff. I mean, that's typical, that's normal, but it's typically in like bonds and like things that are very low risk because like theoretically that money needs to be there. Otherwise society could collapse. So what Mark Walter did was use it in more high risk investments. And that's how he was able to accumulate so much wealth. Which makes sense. And that's actually not illegal. It's just not typical. But I think where he's in trouble is that he overstated how much cash on hand he had available.
And he wasn't reporting. He wasn't
reporting all of these investments. And so he was like, no, we're good. We have billions and billions of dollars of these people's money. And in actuality, all of that money was either like tied up in other things or potentially just non-existent. And so that's where he's being investigated for fraud. And that's where the money that he used to buy the Lakers might not have ever really existed, ? I think is kind of what I'm learning from the story. So fascinating story. He sounds like he might be cooked to me. Like the reading I've been doing, like he essentially needs to come up with $20 billion in liquidity. Like
I think it's by December 31st. I saw.
Yeah, by the end of this year, he needs to come up with $20 billion in liquid cash to be like. See, that's the part of the story that's actually interesting it's all interesting, but that's the part of the story that I still don't fully understand is like, how are you just okay as far as like you potentially committed like federal fraud and it's fine as long as you end up coming up with the money? I'm like, this isn't like a stick up by the federal government. Like, why can they just be like, oh no, you're good because you came up with the money that you're saying you have? That part feels weird to me. Like, isn't it still fraud either way, even if you don't have the money? But either way, he might be cooked because coming up with $20 billion in 3 calendar months, as one might assume, is tricky.
I guess unless he finds a way to sell the Dodgers, but he's not like it's not like 100% ownership for him.
So I was just reading about this as well. The Dodgers is not. So there's Guggenheim Partners, I think is the name. I'm hearing an echo right now, by the way. There's Guggenheim Partners, and then there's Guggenheim Baseball Group or whatever, and that's like a different thing. And he only owns like a share of the Dodgers through that. So I don't really fully understand that either, but I don't know how much money he could even get from selling the Dodgers, I guess is the point, because I don't know how much of a percentage of the Dodgers he actually owns himself.
You still got the echo or no?
No, you're good now. Yeah.
All right. It's the headphones, the Mighty Beats. Yeah, this story's wild, and I've been obsessed with it. I just finished on my way back from the radio station. I finished listening to Bill Simmons, his podcast.
I loved that interview. Sam Koppelman, he was amazing. Yeah.
Yo, he broke it down. That dude is like super smart and like plugged in. Him and Pablo Torre got something that they're working on.
Can't wait. Literally can't wait.
It's going to be a gem. This just feels like, honestly, the Lakers a little bit of bad luck. Like you sold your team to the wrong guy. Like I remember, and being here in New York and not just following basketball but following baseball, the Mets got into something similar with Bernie Madoff, where he was just had a scandal going on, and it just again feels like the Lakers sold to the wrong party, and now Jeanie Buss is going to have to go through court to stop her siblings, and her siblings listen. If you can cash out, but I would obviously,
Can we talk about that one line in that statement though, where they said that, I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have it in front of me, but they said something to the effect of, we want to cash out while we still can do it cleanly or something like that. Like it was like, I'm like, what do you know is coming down the pipe? Because that made me think about like just the concept of imaginary money, right? And like if he never had the money to buy the Lakers, if this wasn't real money that existed, what does that mean for the liquid cash that the owners, the former owners of the Lakers is now in their possession? Like, is that their money? Like, how does that work?
No. Well, so that's why I bring up the Bernie Madoff situation with the Mets, because something similar happened, and that's why the Wilpons were so broke. Like there was all this investment in a team, money that they didn't have, and Bernie Madoff ends up going to jail, and that's why like their owners were quote unquote broke. So like it's gonna be interesting to see how this thing plays out. I think, and Kalen Dragon 56 chimes in on YouTube, says this Bus T is hilarious.
That's
like it's gonna be a long process. And I had Ramona Shelburne on my radio show earlier. Shout out to her, man. She's been working hard this week. Job. Yeah, and she said like this was the first day in a couple of days where she didn't have like just chaos ruining her morning. She was able to drop her kid off to school. So I asked her, just from a basketball standpoint, how does this, because if I'm a Laker fan, and I am, like the biggest concern to me is how does this land on the desk of Luka?
And the distraction of it all, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a player option in 2 years, and you're watching dysfunction, chaos happen publicly. It's embarrassing the brand. So what's Luka thinking about all of this? And it's too soon for us to get there and know what's on his mind. But yo, Rob Pelinka, JJ Redick, Luka Doncic. What does it mean for all three of them? These are the three most important characters for the organization. And so I don't think the average Laker fan cares about who owns the team, but consequences of a situation like that that's gonna have ramifications that we're gonna see for years to come. And so maybe it's a clean Iger and Kushner takeover. Iger becomes the face of this whole thing, and they run a smooth operation, and it's just like we forget about it. But something tells me no, that's not how this is gonna work.
It's such a fascinating confluence of events too, because like you literally couldn't script this better if this was Succession. Because just to break it down, because Ty and I have probably dived like deeper into this the last few days than the average person because we're both just like obsessed with learning about it. So you've got Mark Walter, who needs to be liquid ASAP to avoid prison, from what I can understand. So he needs to come up with $20 billion.
But yo, can I just cut you off real quick? That is crazy. It's like, hey, if you just give us $20 billion, you don't go to jail.
The rules don't apply to billionaires is basically the long and the short of all of these stories and the Clippers as well. But so he needs to come up with $20 billion. No one has more like time sensitivity than Mark Walter right now. Like he's like, time is of the essence. I need to become liquid like ASAP. Whereas on the other side of the coin, you have the Buss family who's been infighting for years. Jeannie's like unceremoniously fired her siblings over the course of her tenure. They're all fighting constantly with each other. It's crazy drama. They're struggling for control of this and for money and all these things. And they're basically all like, cool, we can drag this out in court as long as it takes. And then you have the exact opposite vested interest of Mark Walter on the other side of things being like, I need this to happen as quickly as possible. And all of this is coalescing with the backdrop of the White House and
Yeah.
like the Saudis. And like, there's just like so many like different factors happening in the backdrop. And I'm just like, this is fascinating. Like, I can't
It's
wait
like,
to see how this plays out.
what's happening with the Suns and Ishbia? Because yo, so the
Oh my
podcast
God.
I listened to earlier, like brought up stuff that we just don't focus on too often because we're so wrapped
Mhm.
up in just basketball. And it's like these organizations are going for a lot of money. How are y'all able to just afford all of this
They
like that
can't. That's what
quickly?
we're learning is that all of these, whether, I mean, the Celtics haven't been mentioned in this and they also had a pretty high valuation recently, but like, the Suns, the Lakers, you're starting to see like the the valuations of these teams are reaching such a fever pitch of like dollar amounts that there actually aren't people who exist who can afford them.
Yeah,
Steve Ballmer is pretty much the only one who's like has enough liquid cash because he sold his shares in Microsoft to actually be able to like purchase an NBA team at this price point. And maybe like Jeff Bezos. I mean, you could probably name like 3 or 4 people on the planet who have enough money to actually be able to just like buy one of these teams in cash. But for the most part, and like what you learned from that really awesome Sam Koppelman appearance on Bill Simmons is like all of the money that is being used to purchase these teams is like theoretical and being acquired in various degrees of like on the up and up. And
yeah,
so it's kind of a house of cards that's a little bit starting to fall apart, collapse on itself of like when you're talking in between the $6 to $12 billion range of prices, there's not really a way to have that much money on hand in a way that's like kosher is what it's
yeah.
starting to appear.
That's not illegal.
Right.
Or some funny business happening. So Ramona did point out to me earlier today, and I'll plug the interview. It's on ESPN New York's YouTube account, so go check it out. That the fix to all of this can be either A, Jeannie decides to, you know, relinquish this power and says, all right, whatever, succumb to what her siblings want. Or B, she could try to outright buy these 17.8%, but that's a lot of money. It's a
Yeah.
lot of money to come up with. So this thing is gonna drag out for a couple of months, and we're not gonna get. I'm also sure that um, if you're Iger and Kushner, like you don't want this to drag out for months. Like if you've got an opportunity to get her out the way, and I know that there was a written agreement she was going to stay on board to 2030, but if you've got an out, you'd want to exercise that pretty quickly. You don't want to see this thing drag on.
Yes and no, because I think they might have talked about this on that podcast as well. But if everyone's focused on this very messy public bus infighting, they're not focusing on, well, how do you guys have the money for this? And how did Mark Walter have the money for this? And who knew what? And did the NBA know how
Yeah,
Mark Walter was getting the money? And does the NBA know how Josh Kushner and Bob Iger are getting the money? And like we actually have follow-up questions here. None of those questions are going to be asked if every cover of every, like proverbial tabloid is like, oh, Jeanie Buss drags Jeanie Buss's name through the mud. Like that's a nice little distraction for like the top line story, while the real like Machiavellian billionaire dealings are happening behind the scenes. So I don't actually know how much Josh and Bob would care that this is going on.
But I think eventually, right? Like if those are questions being posed at some point, they will still, become front and center
I mean, I would
and under
imagine
all
that
the scrutiny.
Jeannie had no legal standing to be the governor anyway. Like the agreement, as we talked about on our last stream, was between her and Mark Walter, which is now essentially null and void. And it would just be
Yeah.
basically going off of the honor system for the new owners to honor that agreement. So she didn't have any legal standing to have any say or sway or position of authority in the administration of the Lakers anyway. So like I don't think they're really worried about like, oh, we need to get Jeannie out of the way, because ultimately she doesn't really have much power. It's a very small minority ownership that she even has right now in the team, and they don't owe her being the governor.
I
So
just meant from the standpoint of like if there was the Buss family pushing all their chips in and saying, all right, we're selling our shares. If I'm Iger, now I just get to become front and center. We cash in and we're moving. Like there is no loyalty or honor system that has to remain in place because we're done. But if
I
this
think
thing
I just
continues,
think it doesn't
right?
really matter. Like I don't think that in I don't think that they're actually worried about that, even if the Busses do end up owning 17%, or if Jeannie has this theoretical 5-year agreement with, a year and a half of which is already done to be the governor. Like, from what I understand, especially on the Josh Kushner side of things, so there's Thrive Capital, which is his private equity firm or whatever. And then there's Thrive Eternal, and Thrive Capital invests in AI and a lot of like kind of tech startups. And that's how they made their bread and butter. And so like that includes like SpaceX and stuff like that. That's a little bit more like short term, invest the money, flip the money, move on to the next thing. The whole purpose of Thrive Eternal is that they want to be investing in like legacy things that are supposed to last like decades upon decades. And so I don't think, I mean, I know Josh Kushner's a sports fan, but for him, my understanding is that it's more about like making a long-term investment in a legacy brand that he thinks will like withstand the changing social, like import of AI and what that's doing to help the value of other brands. On the Bob Iger side, I think he's been dreaming of and wanting to own an NBA team forever. And he's much more
Yeah.
interested in like being the genie and being the face and being that. And I don't think he's going to let an agreement Jeannie made with Mark or a 17% stake stop him from becoming the face of the Lakers. Like I think ultimately he is going to be the governor. I think that's very clear as to he only has his net worth is a paltry like $500 million or something like that. So he didn't have like the financial muscle to be involved in this operation. He's strictly involved, I think, because he really wants to own an NBA team and he wants that to be his identity, much in the way that it was the Busses for so long.
And it sounds like that NBA team was supposed to be Vegas, Vegas getting a
Mm-hmm.
team. And then once they
Yeah, he
kind of
was a
got
Clippers
wind of,
fan.
yeah, right. Well, once he got wind of what the valuation for that expansion team was, and I'm just reciting what I've heard,
Mm-hmm.
then they just kind of
I mean, it
pivoted
doesn't make
and
sense. If you're going to
checked
end up
in
spending, I've heard in the neighborhood of like between 8 to
10
10
billion.
billion
Yeah.
for a Las Vegas team, that you have to build a brand new arena. You have to build a fan base from the ground up. There's like zero global connection at all. Like you're not going to find the Vegas whatever's fans anywhere globally yet. Vegas is a much smaller market than LA with a lot more competition for like, because as you know, a lot of the way that NBA teams actually make revenue is through using the arenas that they are in to have concerts and other types of
Okay.
events. Where are you going to find more competition for that? And then that size of a venue than Las Vegas, where there's already a million of those. So there's a lot more of like an uphill battle in Las Vegas. In LA, it's turnkey. You buy the house recently, you know what I mean? Like it has everything you need in there. Like They already have a really robust global fan base, a really strong brand identity. They have a superstar in the building already. They have an arena that they have a really good lease on. So it's like it makes so much more sense to invest a little bit more money to own a much more sure thing, especially on the Josh Kushner side of things. I would imagine, yes, on the Bob Iger side, where you want to be the face of a franchise and you want your own team, maybe Vegas in some ways would have been more appealing because it doesn't have a history. It could just be the Bob Iger Las Vegas basketball team. But for Josh Kushner, who's really just doing this as like an unemotional investment in like a long-term asset with cultural relevance, like the Lakers is by far the most ideal of those. So
let me ask you a question. Because I was thinking about this, and they brought up Dolan. And you know, there are a lot of Knicks fans who obviously have strong, passionate feelings about Dolan, and I think some of that might have subsided after what we saw them do in the playoffs. But like, he's a fan of the team, which I think is a plus. And so, if you are a fan of a team, wouldn't you rather have your owner have some type of emotional investment and attachment to the product than this being just some, oh, you know, let's flip it in a decade or 15 years? Like, I've started to come around. Like, I keep bringing up the Mets because they're a perfect example. Like, Steve Cohen's one of the richest owners in sports, and he's a diehard Met fan, grew up a Met fan. And so he has their best interests at heart. And I thought for you know, an extended period of time, I don't know if that's great because fans don't make the best decision makers. But when you see what's happening now, I'm like, I don't know. I think I'd rather my owner be a fan than what we have going on here.
For sure. And I think that's why I've always been, again, you know, like woke Claire, but I've always been like a huge proponent of like the Green Bay Packers model where it's publicly owned, because ultimately, not only from like an emotional perspective, do you want whoever's owns your team to have an emotional investment in the team and care about their success just from a fan perspective, but also like these really are public assets in a lot of ways. Like almost every single arena for an NBA team has some level of public funding, public investment, like taxpayers are subsidizing teams either almost entirely or to a great degree in most cases. And so it really is like a public thing. It's it belongs to the cities that it's in to a certain degree, but then it doesn't. But then it's a billionaire gets to make money off of it. And that's never made sense to me. But I think it all comes down to, and I think Sam addressed this really beautifully in that interview, like they're become so astronomically expensive that not even the average super rich person can afford to buy a sports team anymore. And when you get to that echelon of rich and of billionaires, and there's only like a handful of them on earth that could even potentially afford this, you're going to run into nefarious ways of accumulating wealth. You're going to run into money that doesn't really exist. You're going to run into guys who aren't actually sports fans and just want a sound investment. Like all of these things happen when you price out like 75% of the people who used to be able to afford to buy a sports team. Like you just can't be as picky when when the team and the going rate is $10 billion.
Because there is something endearing about watching A-Rod courtside, like, you know, fist pump after a Rudy Gobert dunk. So, as far as I'm concerned, like this might have changed my view of how I feel about ownership and ownership actually being fans.
I think there's sorry, not to interrupt, but I think there's an ideal happy medium, like the platonic ideal owner, if it's going to be a private citizen, which again, I personally believe that it should be publicly owned. But the platonic ideal is someone who is passionate enough that they have the team and their fans' best interests at heart, but smart enough to know when to be hands off and let the experts in the field handle it. And the problem is that those things rarely are in tandem. Like generally,
you have it in New York. You do have it in New York with Dolan.
Okay, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here because I like being able to go to Madison Square Garden, and I think I was honestly kind of inspired by James Dolan's locker room speech that came out. So like, no hate
Oh,
there.
where his no no engaging with your partner for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Like I thought speech was pretty impressive, but I will say like I've heard reports that it was less that he understood he needed to be hands off and more that he was just busy with the sphere the last several years. And so maybe like his opinions were more needed elsewhere, and then it just so happened that he had hired really competent people to do their jobs in the interim. But regardless, I think it is hard to find an owner that is like that great balance of really cares and is invested but has the sort of like humility and um self-awareness to know when someone else is better at the job of running a basketball team, and knows how to hire the right people. And I hope that the, Iger Kushner group is the latter and can, be invested, but also hands off to a degree. Yeah. I think the concern is that like the circumstances under which this was purchased and the fact that they were more interested in having the Vegas team and then decided to pounce on, really,
Yeah,
it sounds like pounce on the vulnerability of Mark Walter.
exactly.
Because like the longer this story goes, the less it seems like they had actual like insider info that he might be interested in selling, and we're more just like reading the tea leaves that he was in big trouble and might be desperate. That's not a great foot to get off of on owning a beloved sports franchise, but I'll give
It's
them
the
the benefit
most
of the doubt
important. Yeah, it's the most important team, or of the
in
two most
American
important
sports.
teams. Yeah, and especially in American in the league, but in American sports. And so if you're a Laker fan, it's just like, man, look at the summer we've had so far. It's crazy. JJ Redick, Palenka. It's hard to say now because Ramona made a great point to me earlier, where she said like the Padres got sold and it didn't necessarily lead to organizational change. So there is a world that exists where you can keep your brass in place, but I find it hard to believe that these dudes don't want to come in and install their own motto, their own vision, and thus we see the end of Palinka and JJ. Now that might be months from now, years from now, who knows? But it's at least something in my brain that's being thought of.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think again, it's like it bears repeating to delineate between Josh Kushner and Bob Iger, because I really think like it's almost like overstated to a degree how involved Josh Kushner likely will be with this team, because I think it really is more of an investment on his side and he's more of the money behind the operation, and Thrive Eternal is the money behind the operation. But Bob Iger, like he's clearly wants to have this be the next phase
Yes.
of his life and career
Yep.
path. Like he was the CEO of one of the most high profile companies on the planet for many years and is now kind of twiddling his thumbs, and considered, I think, a presidential run at one point. And so like he clearly wants to be public facing. He clearly wants to be deeply involved with this team. And so I would be really surprised if he was like, "No, yep, status quo, everything's cool. We can just like keep it pushing the way it's been going." Like he's going to have opinions, he's going to have ideas. I would, if I had to guess, I would guess that JJ potentially survives longer than Rob, but like I don't know.
Yeah. It's just
I don't know.
it's the boring gotta wait and see. We touched on, because I saw that you were very passionate on Twitter about the Clippers fiasco.
Yeah.
And I want to hit you with some of my takes and then get your thoughts on it.
Okay.
This is embarrassing for the NBA.
100%.
We're nearing the 1 year anniversary of this investigation, and we still don't have a resolution. We thought we had one, and then the NBA puts out a statement refuting ESPN's report and saying there are inaccuracies. Here's my thing. I understand if you're Adam Silver, you have two impending wars, because on one side, it's like, hey, you better bring the hammer on this guy. If you let him off easily, you're going to look like a sucker. You're going to look like a chimp, especially coming off of you getting crushed for load management, tanking, all-star. He took a beating all year long. If this happens and you let Ballmer get off, uh, people are going to crush him. On the other side, and this is where you were kind of passionate about, man, that billionaire privilege should not give you the right to just get away with, in my eyes, clear cap circumvention. I think something happened. I'm not Pablo Torre.
I don't
I'm
know how
not
you
doing the
couldn't.
investigating.
Like,
I'm not boots on the ground talking to people. Just from my vantage point, the untrained eye, the non-expert, something happened. And Simmons brought this up on his podcast. How are you, in partnership with aspirations, getting paid all this money and haven't done a damn thing for them?
yeah.
That that
I mean, I
that
think
to me is a red flag in itself. And so, like, I think he's guilty. I don't know what the consequences. I don't know if you void his contract, but clearly something's off here.
I mean, first of all, I think something that people seem to be missing when they're like, combing with a fine tooth comb looking for proof of this. This is not a court of law. You don't have to, like, Adam Silver is not a judge. Like, you don't have to prove it without a shadow of a doubt, except for to avoid the headache of having
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer and his billions upon billions of dollars come after you and like sue you for doing this. But like, technically speaking, they have enough evidence. Like, there's enough circumstantial evidence to say, like, what we know is that Kawhi, without a shadow of a doubt, because we have proof, as Pablo won a Pulitzer for, is that Kawhi got paid to be a spokesperson while A, never doing any public speaking or any spokesperson activities, and B, for a company where he got paid like orders of magnitude more than like Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert Downey Jr. and Drake and whoever did to actually do the work, to actually promote this publicly. And there's, we have a record of that. So you just, like, logically, why would a company pay Kawhi Leonard, who's a star, but not the biggest star in the NBA, way more than Drake or anyone else they've paid to do nothing? It doesn't make any sense. And so in the CBA, like, on the, the parts of the CBA that they have to adhere to throw the book at Ballmer, perhaps, one of them is like, if they got paid, I think the language is something like more than can reasonably be explained to do something or whatever by a company that was connected to the team. And I don't see how any reasonable person could look at now the Daktronic side of things, where he got paid to be a spokesperson or to do an endorsement deal for a company that had never had endorsements for a product that's not public facing. It's a scoreboard. Like, it's not like it's a consumer product, and then never endorsed it. And then also got paid from aspiration way more than any celebrity they've ever paid to endorse them. Never did anything for them either. And oh, by the way, there's communication records between the Clippers and both of these companies. And one of them was an arena sponsor, and the other one made the scoreboard for the arena. So I just, first of all, don't know how there's any, like, you can only suspend your disbelief so far. And to me, it's really about them trying to have everything so buttoned up that Ballmer can't come after them. And that's what's taking so long. And
that's the explanation, the only explanation.
There is no other explanation to me.
Because they know he's coming for him. And I guess, as he should, it's his right to defend himself. And, he's got all this money. And with that comes privilege and, high-priced lawyers. So he's going to come at the NBA. And there is a fear of what that could lead to. And it's also like, hey, it could expose other teams. Because I refuse. Now that sometimes it requires the presence of things happening to open your mind to, like, oh, this might not be the only place where it's happening. This is going on, and a lot. And I'm not excusing the Clippers, but I think the Clippers and Kawhi should be punished for this. But this is happening elsewhere. Joe Smith, like, this took place early 2000s with the Timberwolves. So this is happening, I think what I was so passionate.
Yeah. And what I was so passionate about was, like, I think a lot of people's defense is like, why should I care? This happens all the time. And I think it's the idea of, if you care about the competitive integrity of the sport, it's not to have the expectation that no one will ever cheat. because like cheating is going to happen. It's that if people flagrantly cheat, you have to punish them for it, because otherwise the precedent that you're setting is if you cheat, nothing is going to happen. And so it's playing by the rules gets completely disincentivized. So it's not about a gotcha of like, oh, we found the one person who cheated. It's about if you're going to get caught cheating, something bad has to happen to you. Otherwise, everyone will just cheat. And as what it should be, if the owners have any sense, because ultimately Adam Silver works for the owners, is that Steve Ballmer has more money than all of them combined, in his net worth. So if you let him off the hook, like as these owners get richer and richer, as you have the Thrive Eternals of the world becoming owners of NBA teams, what's to stop them from bullying you out of competitiveness?
What's the punishment? What's the punishment?
I think it's going to be weaker than it maybe should be. And I think that's fine. I think a compromise between like not doing nothing and not like forcing him to sell the team or something is okay, because ultimately like you don't want those problems with Steve Ballmer. And I totally get that. But I think I think they probably will avoid Kawhi's contract, because that's easy, because then he can just become a free agent and sign with the Raptors for a little less money anyway. Like that's easily deal withable. And then for Ballmer,
wait, hang on. So what do you do with the trade? So now all these guys go back to the Clippers and the Raptors?
I think Kawhi ends up on the Raptors on a free agent contract for a lot less money, and then they do some sort of wink nod, we'll pay you more next time you're a free agent. And then I think, which is also against the CBA, by the way. And then I think like Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick end up as Raptors. I think that's probably what happens.
Because you got picks involved. And so maybe like you lessen the value that you're sending in the trade. Like that makes this whole thing complicated. The Kawhi part is easy. He, like you said, void his contract. He's a free agent. He signs there. But with players and picks involved, I don't know. That's the.
I mean, I think they should probably penalize them with draft pick. Like they should probably make it so that they can't pick in the first round of the draft for X number of years. I just don't know if they will. I think that would be a fair punishment for this, because like ultimately what we're talking about is, I think the other reason people don't care about this story is because they didn't win, because they were a massive disappointment. And so people, like what I'm urging and begging people to do, which you just have to use your brain a little bit, is like, you're talking about the results and we're talking about the process. This isn't about the results. This isn't about the fact that it didn't work. They allegedly cheated. And yes, that cheating was not fruitful if it happened, but they allegedly cheated. And so that's what the punishment should be associated with. And the cheating created a competitive advantage, even though, because they signed a player that they couldn't actually afford on the free market, essentially, is what they're being accused of, and compensated for it in other ways. And so, yes, that competitive advantage was not fruitful, but it's still cheating, So like not having draft picks for X number of years puts you at a competitive disadvantage. And I think that's the point, is trying to like find a way to posthumously level the playing fields. And I just don't know, understandably, if the league is going to risk angering their richest, most powerful owner by throwing the book at him.
So you just made me think of something else. Like, could you imagine?
If they had won?
They had one.
That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm asking people. Guys, I'm going to look to camera. Use your imaginations. Imagine if the Clippers had fired off like multiple championships during this era, and then you found out that they were paying Kawhi under the table. Then you would care. And the point of all of this stuff is like, it's not about the results. It's about the process. So just take the results of what happened out of your brain and just think about what they did allegedly to get there. And that's what the punishment should be aligned with. Not, well, they didn't win anyway, and Kawhi, they probably wouldn't even do that trade all over again if they had it to do over. Like, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think we're getting a slap on the wrist.
That would be my guess as well.
Go away, have this thing just disappear. Because look, it's a nightmare, as I mentioned, for Silver. If not for this, there would be a lot of huge. Like storylines talk about going into next season. Tomorrow will be 2 months away from opening night, and instead of having all of that, it's like yo. And imagine, by the way, Kawhi had gotten traded. Let's just make up a march to Boston, and like because Silver mentioned how he's like mad at LeBron for taking so long to pick his team because can't figure out the schedule. Like you're trying to schedule and the Celtics aren't a great example because they'd be on national television anyway. But a team that otherwise wouldn't be on national TV and now you can't make the schedule, like that would be another like subset of this. So
Also, like, total side note and not on topic really at all, but has anyone noticed that none of the free agent moves that everybody was like clamoring to have happen and they're blaming LeBron's decision on holding up have happened? Like Jonathan Kuminga still isn't signed anywhere.
yeah,
Peyton Watson still isn't signed anywhere. James Harden is still not signed with the Cavs. Like nothing has happened. So
Jalen Duren is like
Jalen Duren, none of these people have signed. So clearly LeBron wasn't really holding anything up.
All right, how about we end here
Okay.
on a nice note? So
Great.
Josh Eberly, NBA Twitter. I'm pretty sure you know of
Yeah.
Josh Eberly on NBA Twitter. He put out something fascinating yesterday. He said if LeBron's block is like the signature moment of his career, what's number two? I said
Hmm.
the shot over, coincidentally enough, Kawhi to clinch the 2013 finals. That's game 7. That's after Ray Allen shot in game 6. Because the Heat, they're up 2 with like 20 something seconds left to go. But if the Spurs get a shot, they could come back and either tie or win the game. That shot LeBron hits, where we're still at the point where people are questioning his jump shot over Kawhi Leonard, to me, might be like the biggest shot of his career. And so if the block is number 1, I'm going the shot over Kawhi number 2. What say
I think
you?
that's a really good choice. My brain went to the fadeaway that he hit, the turnaround fadeaway or whatever that he hit to become the all-time scoring leader. Just because like that
Okay,
moment feels like such a signature moment in his career to me, like cementing yourself in the NBA history books. And obviously that's not like a shot that wins a game or something like that. So it's not really I mean, it is the block, that's why this is like a little bit of a like silly exercise because like clearly that's the moment. But I think like if I close my eyes and picture a LeBron moment, when it's all said and done, I think that will be one of them. But I think sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say the buzzer beater to win that game against Orlando.
Against Houston. Oh, against Orlando. I thought you were gonna say against Houston.
Yeah, so during his first Cavs stint, they end up losing the series, but that comes to
Or is
mind.
it like his hands on his hips, like glaring or whatever,
and that Boston game
against the Celtics? Yeah.
Or the dunk on was it Jason Terry? The Jason Terry dunk. Yes, he's got a lot of moments, but I thought that was fascinating.
I had this conversation with Nick actually about that people will hear at a later date that I can't talk about yet, but about what
is this part of the project you're working on?
Just this conversation, but it wasn't like what's a signature moment. It's like what would LeBron's statue be, And
okay.
We decided it was the block, but it was also like we did have a conversation about it. And it's really interesting because I think that this is such a testament to the fact that he's been so many different players over the course of his career. Like you could pick a different one for each stop he's had, But yeah, it is an interesting conversation.
So wait, when can it? Because I know we got to get out of here. Is there a timeline of when you can tell us about this project you're working on?
Yeah, like late September, I think. So
that's when you get to talk about it, or
yeah.
Okay, cool. Looking forward to hearing that. We've got some NBA stuff we're working on.
Yeah.
That we will tell the public about. But yeah, this was fun.
This was so fun. I I'm such a nerd for this topic right now because it really does marry my two favorite talking points, which A is basketball and B is like eat the rich. So I'm just like this is really in my wheelhouse.
Wait, I didn't know you were known as Woke Claire. I learned that today. They called you Woke Claire.
No, they don't actually call me that, but like the people in my mentions are always like Stop being so woke. Like, stop.
Yeah,
Get politics out of my sports.
oh my goodness. I had a I don't even want to call it a rant. Like when Jackson Dart introduced the president, I thought it was a bad
Mm,
idea, and I
yeah.
talked about that on the radio station. And everyone, like not everyone, but a lot of people in the comments were calling me woke. Ty, get this liberal off the air.
Yeah. Well, it's
Well,
funny how it's like stick to sports unless it's like our side. And
yeah,
then Sophie Cunningham, Jackson Dart, we would love to hear from
yeah,
you and actually please talk more.
exactly. Yep, exactly. Claire, this was fun. We
So
will talk
fun.
again
So good to
soon.
see you.
I'm excited about the project. I can't wait for you to be able to reveal that.
Thank
But
you.
we have some stuff we're cooking this summer. Go enjoy the rest of your day. I will talk to you soon.
You as well.
Deuces.
See you
All
later.
right, that was Claire DeLune. Tremendous job as always. Yeah, this Clippers and Lakers stuff, just absolutely insane. Jeannie's gonna fight tooth and nail, try to keep her share, because she does not want to relinquish the 17.8%. And look, to defend Jeannie, before we get on out of here, at Ty D Butler, by the way, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. We got some good content. I don't really mind, and I understand if you're Jeanie Buss and the Lakers are your life. Like this brand kind of defines you, and so when there is an exit strategy that says 2030 is going to be the year you bow out, you have every right to fight for that. Especially when you've got one of the 5 best players in the league sporting your uniform. So in theory, over the next 4 years, you could win another championship. And how about that for your legacy? How about that for a nice little closeout to this chapter of your life, winning another title? And so I understand why she's going down swinging. Why this is a battle she is hell bent on fighting, because some of it is petty, right? Like, I guess you can call it karma, what she did to her siblings, and firing them, and so they want to get back at her. They also want to cash in, as they said, while they can. But the Lakers prior to Jeanie Buss taking over from Jim Buss were a disaster. And what she can say happened during her tenure was they won a championship. They were able to sign LeBron James. They were able to trade for Anthony Davis. They were able to trade for Luka Doncic while she oversaw the operation. And so, while the last couple of years haven't been great, they haven't gone on deep playoff runs. And there's been some turmoil, um, especially how rocky the relationship with LeBron got. Like that, what to me was embarrassing and didn't shine either party in the brightest light. Which these things tend to happen, especially when they're playing out publicly, and you're the Lakers, and in my eyes, LeBron, you're the best player in NBA history. But she can say on my resume, since I took over, got a championship. I've done that, and on her way out, if she is trying to win one more and not have the carpet ripped from underneath her, yeah, go to court, make it happen. I just pray as a Laker fan, this does not aggravate, insult, offend, embarrass Luka. If you are on the stream right now, if you are someone, watching me and you are a diehard Laker fan, the thing you probably care most about isn't litigation, Mark Walter, is he going to jail? What you care about is how Luka Doncic feels about this situation. How does Luka feel? What's his read on it? And look, it's too early. It's certain, it's been a crazy 2-year run for Luka, right? 3 years ago, my man's in the finals. They then missed the playoffs. He gets traded in the middle of the night, ends up a Laker. They change ownership twice, and now you've got the Buss family fighting over 17.8%. So Luka's just like, my man got married. He's going through no, once he got married, he had the divorce, right? Did Luka get married again? No, he was engaged, and then the whole split situation. When did that happen? Hang on, hang on. I'm gonna make sure I have my information correct. Yeah, March of 26th. Relationship that began when they were teenagers. They split. So personally, Luka's been going through a lot. He's got this custody battle for his daughters. And then professionally, going from Dallas, place he loved, returned back there, was crying. So it showed you just how much that place meant to him. And now he's with the Lakers, loses LeBron. It's his team now. Oh, wait, we're changing owners. Like, it's just been a lot going on. Just a lot going on. Hit me up in the comments if you want to continue to talk about this situation. We are streaming live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube as well. At Ty D Butler. Let's get it popping off. NBA season starting 2 months from it doesn't fit. Yo, it's crazy, man. Season starting 2 months from now. 2 months. That's it. Doesn't feel like we've had an off season. But shout out to the Knicks winning that championship, deep playoff run. We didn't see it, 16-3. I will be back. I think I'm coming back tomorrow. Might do some NFL and baseball tomorrow. So keep it locked on the Ty Butler Show. Claire, depending on what happens in this story, she'll be back next week. But I do appreciate you guys tuning in to the program. This thing is messy. This thing is messy. And it's only going to get messier. It's only going to get messier. But if you're a Laker fan, you're just like, yo, let's keep the main thing the main thing. Do y'all want Pelinka fired? JJ fired? Because I think that even if you were someone who was skeptical about JJ coming in, he's won you over. And the Lakers have only won, what is it? One playoff series. They beat the Rockets. I'm like blanking on what happened last year because I know they lost to Minnesota. Yeah, that was the first round they lost to Minnesota in 5, where JJ in game 4 played his starters the entire time. But I know they've only won one playoff series in 2 years. But even if you were a JJ Redick skeptic, Duke Blue Devil, Mr. Know-It-All, some of the TV stuff, I think that he's had to, he's won you over. And now it would feel like, damn, man, I don't want to lose him as a head coach. Now you're hearing rumbling, CP3 could be involved. To what capacity? Is that a front office role? Is that a head coach? I don't know. If you're a Laker fan, I think you want JJ to stay put right where he is. You've soured on Rob Pelinka because post-championship in 2020, it's like, my man, what have you done to this roster? What have you done to the roster? I think they will be a good team this year. Once we get past this dysfunction, and then I guess you just hope it doesn't serve as a distraction. Once we get past this and get to the regular season, I think the Lakers will be a really good team. They're not quite there yet with San Antonio and with Oklahoma City, obviously. But I do think the Lakers end up being a good team. And so that might mask a lot of what's going on in the background. If Luka's healthy, you're a contender. As long as he has like functional pieces around him. We learned that when he took the Mavs to the finals a couple years ago. At Ty D Butler. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Once again, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, at Ty D Butler. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. I'll be back tomorrow for another stream. Peace and love. Holla at your boy.